everyone, welcome to Saturday. It's another live stream, and geez, we're up to number 17 already, I believe. So a big thank you for anyone who's stuck it out this long, for 17 of them. Gosh, I feel sorry for you already. But yeah, big hi to everyone who's joined us already. There's a couple watching already. 888 Bergs jumped into chat already, so big g'day to you, mates. And anyone else who's lurking in the background there, jump into the chat and say hi. And even if you're a bit shy, it's okay. We're all bit shy here, I guess. Darren's there. G'day, Darren. How you going? It's really cool. Yeah, so today we have no guests on Skype, which is a bit of a shame, but that's all right. We'll run things as we usually do. And this week I've prepared everything as I usually do. I know I was a bit slack last couple of weeks and not getting everything ready, but we've got our usual segments back. Hooray! So we'll have I reckon we'll have a big old chuckle tonight. There's a couple of good funny memes coming through and a bit of news to talk about, and yeah, anyway I should say, don't forget to jump into chat and tell us what you've been up to for the last week. It's been, I can't believe this week goes through, it flies through so quickly. It's just amazing how quick the weeks go, and you know, before I know it, I'm crazily getting stuck into working out what I'm doing for my live stream and trying to catch up. Inverted Popes, g'day, how you going? Thanks for jumping in. And yeah, so just quickly today, I don't know if you guys follow my socials, but I thought, just to be really bizarre and different, we're going to take a look at the Amiga 1200. Now that's a bit of a retro computer here. It's not my oldest computer that I've got, but you know, it's a late. When did the A1200 come out? Late 80s, I think. You know, I've got a hair in my mouth. Yeah, I think I got it. Late 80s, early 90s. And this particular one that I've got here isn't one that I had originally. In fact, all of the Amigas that I had originally when I was a young fella, they all got sadly sold off and used for money for other things like IBMs and stuff like that. I know it kind of sucks when you hear it like that, but unfortunately, that's the way things were in those days. But for me, in the last couple of years, probably at least 5 years, I've been slowly collecting Commodore computers back again. I've got 2 Amigas. I've got 2 Commodore 64s. Actually, I think I've got 3. I think one's kind of in parts. And I love them. There's a lot to talk about with this subject. So, you know, we could sort of be on this all night. But what I really hoped to do tonight was really probably talk about what's going to come out in the news segment today. And you know, unfortunately I wasn't able to, because the company that released the information hasn't brought out the information for me to touch and use yet. So we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, a couple of people are having a chat in the chat room, and you guys who are watching this in replay, you can see the chat on the side here. But also don't forget, when you actually watch this, all the chat replay comes again as well, so it's good for you guys to check that out. But I like to be everyone who's in the chat room to be involved in this live stream. I don't want to be the guy preaching on the microphone. I don't want to be that. I want to be just like you guys. And you know, if I could have everyone's camera and audio in here, the better, if we could do that. But unfortunately my internet connection isn't that big, and not everyone wants to be on camera, but that's fine. So what are we talking about? 888 Berg saying he's had internet outage. So yeah, that always sucks when your internet's down. And when you're having to watch it on 24p. Ugh, jeez. I must look terrible. Actually, you'll probably look better at 24p. 240p, I should say. Yeah. Darren is... sorry, Inverted Popes is playing around with his Microfreak that arrived today. Wow, that's really cool. So that'll be interesting. And how do you Inverted Popes, how do you find that keyboard, the touch keyboard? Do you find it a bit weird, or is that kind of something that you're cool with? Or let us know how you think that is. Yeah. Something's Inverted Popes is rebooting, so I probably didn't even hear that, so we'll have to wait for him to come back in. Oh no, here we go, he's back. He's back, so that's fine. Okay, so what are we going to do with the Amiga is not a lot because I have to admit it's a bit like I don't know, if you hadn't ridden a bike since the 1990s and then you had to jump back on a bike and ride it again, you're going to find it quite tricky. So for me it is anyway. Now I'm not that sort of up there with Amiga software and that, but what we're going to use is I'm just going to go to this screen here. We're going to use Octamed Professional. It's a freeware, so I thought if I show you a software over on the YouTube and it's freeware, there shouldn't be any problems with copyright and things like that. And we'll play a file and go from there. Now I've got this connected over here next to me. You can see just where my hand is floating there is my MPC Live, and I've actually got the MIDI also connected. So we'll see if we can try and get the MIDI to work on this as well, which would be pretty cool. So yeah, and let's see what we can do anyway with this. So before we get into this is just a taste for those who are watching to see what the live stream is going to be about. So I don't like to go straight into the main segment just yet. What I like to do for those who are new to this live stream is I've got my normal segments, and we start with news, and we'll go straight into news actually, because this for me is actually relevant to what we're talking about right now, and that is, that's right everybody, we have a new firmware update for the Akai MPC Live, MPC X, and I also believe the Force is getting one as well. If I read that correctly, I don't know if I read it or incorrect or whatever, you guys can correct me, but that's pretty cool news for me. Now, what is going to be in this firmware update is kind of like parameter locking, kind of like what they do with the Electron stuff, and you can do this with sequence. And so there's videos out there on the interwebs. Now, if you guys would like me to show you an Akai, this is a corporate video from Akai, I'm sure they'll be happy for me to show their wares. Let me know in the chat. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go straight to, but let me know if you do want to see what the new features are of this update. I can't show you on my MPC, but as I said before, they haven't released it to the public yet. They've teased us and they've gone, here's our new firmware update. But by the way, you can't have it yet. What do you guys think of people doing stuff like that? Doesn't that just absolutely frustrate us? Oh, dearie me. I think what we'll do is we'll go straight into the other news thing. Now, this one's not so well known. Sorry. There's a little synth company that makes, they're called Modor. They make Modor music. I don't even know where they are. Someone will tell me where they are. Belgium. Belgium's where they are. I just read that. I cheated. Anyway, these guys, they've shown this NF1 synth before. And this NF1 synth's been around, I think it was released in NAMM in 2016, if I remember rightly. So that's a while, 3 years, nearly 4 years ago. And it's a digital DSP-based synth. And what they're showing is that they've added a keyboard to it. So it's actually pretty cool looking. Very, very different kind of layout below there. You can see just crazy looking layout, I think. Does anyone have in chat a Modor or Modor NF1 synthesizer? Maybe, maybe not. What we'll do is, what I thought I would do, it's been a while since we've heard anything from this, and I've got an old video here from Perfect Circuit. And I can see if I can get this up. Technical problems already. Just waiting on my computer to respond, everybody. I've got a video lined up, but of course it doesn't want to line up, does it? Just wait a sec, guys. Just imagine if I did live TV, I'd be absolutely slaughtered, wouldn't I? Ah, dearie me. Okay, so let's see if we can get this back again. All right, there's that. And hooray, there we go. Right, now let's see if we can get this thing to play. Obviously, Perfect Circuit are the owners of this video, so I haven't asked them for permission, so I'll probably get in trouble, but I love the Perfect Circuit guys. It's a good plug for these guys. If you haven't used them in LA, they're a really good bunch. I've bought some gear from them before. Anyway, I'll put the link in the description of the live stream for that video if you want to check it out. It's an older video. It's been around for a while, actually. So that's if you want to check out what the sounds of the NF1 sounded like. So May 2016 was when that one came out. So it's over 12 months old, that video. I do apologize if I'm showing people stuff they've seen before, but that is life when people bring out keyboard versions of this. As you saw in that video, there wasn't a keyboard attached to that. That was just the module. So now they've got a keyboard attached to it. But I think what it does is it brings that synth back to the front. It kind of got lost with all the other stuff coming out. And I don't know, Motor makes some good stuff. And I've just lost my chat room, so I just want to make sure anyone been talking about it. No, it's not modal, it's Modor. Blah 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 blah. It's a bit of a hybrid, yep. So Inverted Pope says it's a bit of a hybrid. Yeah. Someone's purchased it from Perfect Circuit, so there you go. Cool. So that's the news. There wasn't a lot. This time of the year, it's the middle of summer over in the Northern Hemisphere, and it's the middle of winter in the Southern Hemisphere. So I don't know what reason that is, but it just seems to be very quiet on the synthesizer news front. A lot of software comes out this time of the year, though, and I'm not really big on software. So when something big comes out, like what we talked about a few weeks ago with the Apple iPad, that stuff, we'll talk about that. But if it's just VST from blah blah blah, not my channel, not anyway. Anyway, who likes to have a laugh? I've actually prepared the funny side this week. Hooray! Okay, so here we go. Roll the stinger. Let's go. Hooray! We got the stinger working and everything worked and nothing stuffed up. And I've only got 2 this week. Now, the second one, I hope it's not going to stuff up on me because it's a bit tricky doing this stuff. But the first one is audio captures over time, 1979 to 2019. So someone called these sausages the other day, and I thought that was a good name for them. So I don't know if you guys get this, but I do. It's about compression, and obviously the more we use compression, the more this is what our audio is going to look like. It's quite funny. Who out of you guys has got recent tracks that look like the bottom one? Or even the 2009 one. I think mine kind of looks like the 1999 one. That's probably where sausage fat. No, Strike fat. That's a bit of German. Sloppy fat. Wiener Streckfett. Okay, so that's the first one, and I just want to get the second one up. And I don't know how well this is going to go. Ready? Is it going to work? Okay, try. Oh, come on, it's not working. Here we go. I'm sorry for laughing. I'm trying not to laugh. Oh, dearie me. Oh my god. I had to stop it because I would just be in tears. Did anyone see that on social media during the week? Oh my goodness me. Who comes up with this stuff, hey? People are so talented, aren't they? Oh, dearie me. So someone is, someone is, I don't know if I can still do that. Fart clapping. Is that what you guys call it? Fart clapping? Or squeezing out hand farts? I don't even know if I can still do that. No, mine just sounds like a silent fart. But someone's actually tuned them. Now, I don't know whether they've waited to the recording to get the exact note and done that, or if they've used a sampler to pitch shift it or whatever. But who cares? But that was brilliant. I love that sort of stuff. What do you guys think? Ah, dear me. Anyway, enough about our shenanigans, I think. No one mentioned in there that they were interested in seeing the video from Akai about the 2.6 firmware update, so that's fine. We'll just skip that. If anyone wants to see it, let us know, and we can pop that up. You guys can go watch that yourself anyway. Let's go and have a look at this Amiga. Who's interested in Amigas, or who thinks it's... Why am I showing you guys an Amiga? I think it's pretty important. Does anyone out there know that an Amiga, the actual sound on the Amiga actually has a Butterworth analog filter on them? So, yeah, you know, the SID chip that's on the Commodore 64 also is, you know, analog. So, digital and analog, whatever you want to call it. But the actual audio chip on the Amiga is a digital chip because it does sampling. And what we're going to listen to is how crappy the samples are from stuff that was written back in the 90s. And yeah, Triple Eight Berg was saying that he saw a pic on Behringer that might clone the Access Virus B, gassing hard for an actual unit. Well, sorry to pop the little Access Virus bubble there, matey, but Yuli has jumped onto that thread and said we are not doing an Access Virus B or Access Virus clone. I don't know whether he's got an engineer that's toying with the idea or what, but he's nipped that one on the head. So I'm guessing there would be definite, you know, copyrights and you know, those sort of legal issues that Behringer would have with that. So that one's a definite no. Run my Amiga through my Strymon Big Sky. Nah. That'll be just too ambient. Anyway, let's load something up here. Where are we? Now I don't know if this is the right. Yep. No, wrong. Oh god, I'm gonna get used to using an old 90s computer. It is hard. Okay, we got some mods here. Alright, so this one I thought we'd do because I thought it was quite funny. See how it's called vangelis.mod. So this is a mod. So let's load this. Now you guys can tell me, and I hope this works. So let's just give it a play first. Okay, we're not getting any sound. Audio. Try again. Okay, we're getting sound now. That is good. Sorry, I had to I've got the sampling set up on the MPC Live, and I actually wanted to... Alright, let's try it again. Here we go. Has anyone worked it out yet that that is not Vangelis? Does anyone know who that actually is? I'll just pause uncomfortably for a few seconds, see if anyone can work it out. I'll count to 30 seconds in my head. Darren reckons he might know. Who recognises though that's tune? I'll give you a hint. It's definitely not Vangelis. I think I made that pretty clear. Anyway, this is a mod player, and it's also I don't know why they called it Octamed, but I guess for the editing, I don't know. But it's also got a synth and a sampler in here as well, so it's a pretty cool bit of software, and you can see how awesome the GUI is. So that's the note side of things. It actually does have a synthesizer in it. This is pretty cool to look at. So we can set waveforms here. We've got sine wave and sawtooth and triangles, square, and noise. So that's actually pretty cool. And then you've got a sampler in here. How cool's that? You know, these Amigas could be fit into like a tiny little OLED, like a, you know, OP1, and you could have this booting up and just running and have it as a touchscreen. They are pretty light on in terms of what computers can do these days, and some of the software that they made for them are pretty, I mean, this is pretty action-packed. It's got MIDI as well, although I don't know if I can get MIDI to work. I've tried MIDI. I've got MIDI running on here. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be working. Someone looking at that screen who knows Octamed might be able to tell me what I'm doing wrong. No, it wasn't the first tracker, and no, Ataris weren't the first tracker either. There was a tracker in before Ataris. I think Commodore 64 had trackers. There's other trackers on this actual Amiga. While I'm at it, I might show you guys what I've got running, because this is always interesting, I think. So let's, oh, that's the wrong one. Let's close that one. And then, okay, so you can see my Amiga there. And if I zoom out a little bit, that's good for you guys to see. So on the back here, you can see, very hard to see the light, but on the back here you can see all my connections. So this little floppy thing here, there you go, you can just see that now. That's actually an SD card mod that I've put into the Amiga. So instead of it actually having a you know, like an internal hard drive or just using the floppy disks in this thing, I'm now able to use this on an SD card. You can use a compact flash card as well. I've got the same mod for this as well for compact flash, but I just found the SD card and I can just hang it out the back here on this little cable based cradle, and then I can, if I need to change the file system or anything like that, I can just whack it into my PC and do that. Next to it is a graphics adapter. Now that graphics adapter is actually an old UK SCART, so it's like a parallel or serial based RGB connector, and it turns it into SCART. And then over here you can just see the side of it here is a SCART to HDMI converter, which turns my Amiga into a 1080 graphics image, which looks like that. So that's where you can see the screen. So I'm at actually, the only screen that I've got with this Amiga is running through my capture card, and the only way I can see it is on the live stream, which makes it very technically difficult. But anyway, that's it. And then over on there is the audio output, which is going into the MPC Live directly in. And the MPC Live is plugged directly into the mixer, which you guys are hearing on the stream. And then that is the MIDI interface. So it's a serial interface, and there's a MIDI in and MIDI out. So there you go. A little bit of Amiga porn, if you want to call it that, if you guys are interested. The other thing, I guess, oh, I should have shown you that too. Where is it? You can't really see it, but just there is a, it's hard to see because of the light, but that's actually the Amigas have got those 9-pin mouse connectors, and in the old days, Amigas had ball mice, and that's a mouse to PS2 converter. And this is something that, if you guys are interested in Amigas, that you might want to do. Instead of converting your mouse to a USB mouse, it's actually very, very hard for Amigas to do USB. What I've actually gone and done is I've purchased a, I don't know if you can see that. This is just off of Amazon. It's a very cheap mouse called Genius that you can get on Amazon. And this is a PS2 mouse, but it's an optical mouse. So you can see it's optical, which means I don't have the issue with having to clean the ball. And it works beautifully. I've been using it as you saw before. So there's me moving that optical mouse around, and it's using that that PS2 to serial converter. And I think it only cost me like $12 just to get that. I mean, all these mods I've done on my Amiga are really, really well covered on other people's channels. It's not really about that for you guys. So yeah, anyway, just having a quick look in chat. Yeah, Peter, thanks. Octa 8 voices, M for mod and E for editor. Yeah, it's probably my guess as well. E for the med or ed for editor. There are newer versions than version 4 as well, I believe. So I think there's version 6 out. This one is pretty popular. I like the interface on this because it's easy to go from the tracker to, you know, all of these other, you know, you've got sample list. I love this. I love the sample edit on this. It's actually really, really cool. And it actually reminds me a little bit of how an old MPC worked. So you've got range, and you know, you can record. This can actually, don't forget, Amigas can record samples, so they've got audio input on Amigas. So yeah, let's load while we're at it anyway. Let's load another one. This stuff takes me right back. All right, guys, you can see. I don't know if you guys can see what's written there. Okay, so starting from, we just played Vangelis, but it wasn't. It was actually Depeche Mode or Depeche Mode. What do we do? What should we do? Let's choose a fairly big one. What about Project X? Let's try that. And load. And I mean, I don't know if you guys actually saw that, but that's actually really quick for an Amiga to load something. And it's because I'm using an SD card, but it has to be, it can't be instant like an SD card would be on a PC, because it would just crash the Amiga. Obviously the CPU can only handle so much data. So there's actually file-based plugins that choke the SD card data throughput so that it actually just trickles the data in. It's really crazy how this stuff works because you're using old technology with new. All right, so Darren said he wants Xenon 2. Okay, let's do Xenon 2 because Darren asked, and I'm nice like that. Xenon 2, there we go. Let's load Xenon 2, and we'll do the other one in a sec. Boom! Look how quick that is. Samples ripped, and I don't know what that says though, but anyway. Okay, let's play that. Play song.
Yeah. Check this out.
Listen to those samples. Bomb the face. Is that coming through nice? Yeah, it's loud enough, isn't it? I'll stop it there because I think we're going to die of 90s overload. I thought what we'll do is we'll go to the actual samples and check them out. I think it's under sample edit. How do we change the sample? Oh gosh me, it's hard. I think I've got to go to instrument. Yeah, so I go to instrument, then I load the samples. Okay. There we go. And then we can play it. There we go. So this bit of text up the top is not helping us at all. This is just going to be complete trial and error. Notice how it's coming out on the left channel. That's because that's the way the Amigas worked. You had either, I think it was 3 voices on the left and 3 voices on the right, something like that. There you go, the guitar. So what I could do with this now, because that's actually going straight into the MPC Live, I could sample this in the MPC Live. And it wouldn't make very good live streaming YouTube video for me moving my head over there, but maybe that's something I can do on another video. We can sample this stuff. It actually sounded pretty cool. Now that is obviously pitched right down when I'm playing that, so I don't know what that is. This is pretty heavy. So I'm probably going to have to play that pitched, and I'd have to change it all there, and you guys are probably thinking, why doesn't this guy know what he's doing? Trust me, it's all just, 30 years ago, this stuff I was touching. So things have changed. I mean, if you guys have not touched a 90s or an 80s computer properly, I mean, I don't mean just playing games, I mean literally touched it, tried to work with the user interface. If you haven't done that, it's something to behold. It really is bizarre. Like now we've got these Core i9 processors and M.2 hard drives, and it's so super quick. Everything is just super quick, and it's just amazing how much patience we must have had 30 years ago with computers. It's funny. What do these do? And you can hear the crunchiness of the samples. I don't know if that's coming through on the stream. I mean, how crunchy is that? That's crazy. That's a cymbal. That sounds like a 909 cymbal, that one. There's the kick drum. You know what? Loading games used to be a lot worse than, the Amiga had these, these discs. So what are they called? 3.5-inch 1. Well, these weren't even 1.44s, were they? You can actually see what these were. These were actually only 720K. These were called DS. They weren't HD discs. So even the last 3.5-inch discs that came out, the Amigas didn't use them because they were too big. So there you go. There's a bit of trivia for you. What's this one? So it's pretty informative what it's showing you here. So this is just some sort of tingy sort of sound, and it shows you the buffer size. Now I don't know whether that's in bytes or kilobytes, probably bytes. And you can muck around with all this stuff. You can change the volume, the pitch. So at the moment the pitch is at C2. Let's see if we can change that. Let's change it to, I just about typed on my normal computer keyboard here. Let's change it to 320. Let's try that now. It's made it higher. It's interesting. And let's give it a high number, 650. Doesn't even know what 650 is. Okay, that's too high. So let's try 440. he doesn't know what that is. I don't know. You guys will probably be able to tell me if I'm doing anything wrong there. Anyway, so that's the instrument slash sample edit. It does have a sample list here, but it doesn't have anything loaded in here. I don't know why it does that. It might be something to do with the way the mod files have been created. So, yeah. Blocks, I don't know. Edit, I don't really know what that does. All right, let's go try a different one. Let's try Project X, because that was the one I was loading before. Boom. Project X by Jürgen Jace. Okay, should we go up to the mod version? There we go. Play the song. Go. I think in those days it was hard to get a bit of light and shade in those mod trackers. Like, do you know what I mean? Like you didn't have such fine, movement with audio, and everything was kind of chunk based, wasn't it? So you weren't able to sort of, it was kind of really, really steppy and chunky. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like everything kind of sounds really just crunchy or blurting out at full volume, and then it's just either cutting out and another sample is dropping in, or if you were really good at doing mods, you had some sort of control over that, which you can. It would have been a lot harder. And I noticed when sounds were faded out, it was kind of like it was stepping out. So, no, they're not all games. Some of them are ripped from games. But just out of curiosity, do you guys want me to show you a couple of different other bits of software? And we've just been stuck with that Optimed. I can show you. I've got a few other mod trackers here. So let's quit out of that. And what have I got in here? Look at the GUI, guys. Hey, look at this cool GUI. Wouldn't you just love to be using this again? Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a thing of beauty? When you scroll, it doesn't even scroll with it. You have to wait for you to let go of the scroll bar. Alright, so what have we got in here? We've got Sound Tracker Pro. Let's have a look at that. Who used Sound Tracker Pro? Sound Tracker Pro 2. There we go. Jeez, look at that one. Look at the mouse cursor. Oh my goodness me. Okay, music. Now, this one I was playing around with earlier today, and we'll load the same track in, that one there. I have to admit, I lost this screen down the bottom. I lost it when I was playing around with it, and yeah. Don't ask me how to get it back. Someone who knows Sound Tracker Pro will be able to tell us, but anyway, here we go. It's the same track, so it should sound exactly the same. See it moving here on this side. You watch it change. See? So I don't know what you'd call them, whether they're called tracks or sequences or whatever, or programs even. But the song is just a group of that. All this stuff that we are so used to seeing in the music world. It's all come from this stuff originally. All right, so how do I exit out of this? Bang. So that's another tracker. What else we got here? I'm not going to show you through all of my Amiga stuff. It's going to be not a good idea to do on a live stream. But Music X worked before. I actually don't know how to use Music X, but a lot of guys swear by it's. Here it is here. No, that's not the one. No, that did work before. No, why is that not working? No, that's a bummer. Oh, there we go. Don't you love ancient computers? That's just Music X, sorry. Now this thing had quite a bit of a DAW sort of look to it. So you've got this. If you right click with your mouse up the top, you've got all these menus here. God, imagine using this again, eh? So you've got sequencer, MIDI, so you can actually set MIDI in here. Modules, so you've got, oh god, you can program in this thing. Merge, sequence, copy, so it's all to do with sequences, right? So let's load a performance. Let's see if we can do that. Now, it would be in which one? God knows where it would be. Music X probably. And then performances. Yeah, there we go. It might have some performances in here. Alright, so we just pick one of these performances. Let's pick Takata. Okay, it's loaded something. There's a whole bunch of something there. Does that actually play now? I'm not hearing anything. There's no noise coming out, so it's nothing my end. It's something I haven't done right probably. Anyway, what do all these things mean here? Interesting. I guess we'd have to learn how to use the software. There's an edit feature here. Oh, here we go. Holy crap, look at that. Watch Ranzee explore software that he's never used in his life. Live on YouTube. Oh, wow. So, I'm guessing this is like a DAW. Look at that. This is crazy. I don't even understand what I'm looking at here. How do I zoom in? Here we go, zoom. There we go, we can zoom in. And then we can move the cursor this way. It's actually pretty responsive. What is this stuff here though? I actually don't know what I've done there. But I can play it. It might just be MIDI. This whole thing might just be MIDI actually, and I might need to actually plug it into a MIDI sound module or something. That would probably be my guess, and that's why it's not working. Anyway, how do I get out of that menu? Exit. I'll probably exits the program, right? Let me guess. Let me guess. If I exit that, it's exiting the program. Edit buffer will be changed. Discard. No, gets it out of that. Okay, cool. And what does preview do? There's nothing. All right, I think we're done. That's about as I'm looking like a fool here, and I have no idea how to use Music X. Sorry about that. Who thought Music X would be cool to look at, but the quit function has been aborted. Okay, maybe it's because I'm in pause. The music library is still in use. God help us. Okay. We can go between apps like this. There's it. I don't know how to get out of this. Exit. Quit. It's not letting me quit. You know how we can quit? I'll show you how we can quit. In the old days, if you wanted to quit on an Amiga, you just turn it off. Boom. That'll stuff you. There we go there. There's the Amiga. Turn it back on again. You can watch it boot up now. That's pretty quick, isn't it? That would be if you had the SD card, if you're using that. Anyway, I thought that was, you know, a bit of interest for you guys. You know, where we can go from here is, I guess we can definitely we can use an Amiga still. You can use the actual hardware on the Amiga, and we can use it to sample stuff. And then once we've got the sample, we can then play it out of a program like Octamed or Pro Tracker or whatever. And then we can sample it into a more modern, you know, type sampler and play with it that way. And, you know, the MPC Live has got that new looper function on it now. So, you know, you could actually play the whole track on the Amiga, and you could have the MPC Live sequencing parts of it. So you could have this thing as part of your setup if you wanted to. Now, another thing that you could do is, if you don't like Amigas, you could also use the Commodore 64. And the Commodore 64 has a, you can get a little cartridge called the Messiah, which has a MIDI DIN cable plug on it. And some other mods you can get for it as well. And the you can use your Commodore 64 as a sound synthesizer as well. So, yeah. Anyway, a little taste of the Amiga for those who may or may not have been interested. Who liked that? Who liked looking at the Amiga? Was that something new to them? Was that something they'd never even seen before? Amiga Workbench, it's an old version. I think it's 3.1. So this is an Amiga 1200, and it has no upgrade to memory. It's the standard memory. I think it's only 4 meg of memory in this thing, if I remember rightly. And or it may even be 2 meg, 4 meg or 2 meg, something like that. Anyway, you can upgrade the memory in this as well, so to make it a bit more. I could show you games on here, but I haven't got all the joysticks and everything plugged in, so yeah. You guys have been pretty quiet in chat tonight. It makes you feel old. Yeah, it is. It's kind of old stuff, but I think it's worth us realizing that some people actually produced records and CDs and albums on Amigas. You know, there's a bit of a fallacy out there that the Atari was the go-to sequencer of that particular era, and they didn't use Amigas. Well, that's not true. They used Amigas. So there's an argument that's always been around that the Ataris were better for MIDI and Amigas weren't good. That's not true either, because just because an Atari had a MIDI DIN port in the actual machine itself, the Amigas, you could just get that cable and it did the same thing. So there was you didn't have to install any drivers or anything. It just worked natively out of the box. So, you know, MIDI was fine for Amiga. And it didn't come along, as you know, MIDI didn't come along until the Amigas came along after the MIDI. So, you know, it's not something that they had to retrofit. It was around before Amigas came along. So there you go. Yeah. Now, what was I going to do before? Before we go, I was going to double check to see if... I've been checking all day long if Akai have been... They said they were going to release it today, this new firmware. And... Oops. you know what we should do? We should do the Akai firmware website. And we'll share it with everyone. Okay, how do we get to that? Mac. There we go. Akai's website. Let's go MPC. And let's see if they've released the firmware live on the internet. No, it's still 2.5. So what happened to that? It disappeared on me. Yeah, no, it's still 2.5. That's a shame. I would have really liked to have seen it. There is something on their website about it. Let's go back for you guys. So you can see that they are definitely announcing it and talking about it. MPC 2.6. Explore. This is so you guys know what's in there. So grid automation, grid edit and audio edit, and step automation. So that basically allows you guys to you know, do that sort of stuff, where it's kind of like the Octatrack does, like parameter editing. So on each step, you guys will be able to change parameters for effects, for synths, anything like that per step. There's a support now for 8 submixers in the mixer, so they've improved the mixer, and there's an all new TUI layout for vintage effects. So there's, I think there's a bit of a GUI enhancement as well. So yeah, it's definitely not there yet. 2.5. No. No. Triple Eight Berg's been eyeing off an MPC Live, but I'm also holding off as interested in the Isla SP2400. Yeah. I kind of like what they're doing with the Isla, but it's basically a retro remake of what the SP1200 was. So if you have any idea what that was like, there was kind of like a way that samples sounded and behaved, you know, in that era, you know, the 80s and 90s. And the 2400, the SP2400 they bring out is kind of to replicate the how do I say it? The user interface and the way that you made samples. So that's kind of different again to the way the MPCs work and the Octatracks and the Electron stuff, and even any other samplers out there like the Roland ones and that. It's different again. So what does that mean for you? If that's the sort of workflow you want to be doing your music with, then that's awesome. That's probably what you're after. If you kind of are gravitating towards that that sort of 80s and late 80s and early 90s sort of sample sounds and those sort of remixy type repetitive and pitched and crunchy sounding samples, if that's where you want to go, that's going to be perfect for you, because that's exactly kind of what it's for. TC Electronic Cockery Studio. Dearie me. Yeah, well, I had Darren, I had the TC Electronic pedal open today, and I thought that'd make an interesting live stream where we can explore it live, and you know, we could play around with it with the soldering iron, and we can attach some potentiometers to it. I thought I decided not to. I think it's not really relevant for live stream, so I've got it open. It's sitting actually over there at the moment on the little desk, and I'm going to be ripping out. There's little potentiometers soldered onto the circuit board. I'm going to pull them off, and I'm going to attach a proper potentiometer that you can then mount to the outside of the case. And they're 2 trimmer pots, and those trimmer pots adjust various rates and things inside on that circuit board. I don't know exactly what they do. There's other videos on it, and yeah. So that's kind of what I did. TC has he read it. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Yeah. So if that's what you meant, that Juno pedal, yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about. I don't know what you were talking about. Anyway, so what are we up to? We're just hitting an hour, and yeah, just had a bit of a play with the Amiga. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys want to see next week on the channel? We'll probably have another live Skype guest on the channel next week. I think Inky's coming back as well. She's at a concert tonight, if you're wondering where she is. She's a bit excited about that. Oh, you're going to come and join. Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah, love to have you. So hit me up with my socials below. The about page on my YouTube channel has my email, or you can hit me up on Facebook or Twitter if you don't like doing that. Yep, I know what you mean now, Skype. Yeah, definitely. We'll see if we can get. I know Michael. He's been on here before. See if we can get him to come back. I don't know if he's been busy or not. We'll try and get him to come back as well, and anyone else who wants to join. So it's a lot better when it's not just me crapping on. Blofeld? Yeah. What do you want to know about the Blofeld? You want me to put it on the channel? It's quite a popular synth. I mean, it's not going to be plugged in, but it's quite a popular synth, the Blofeld. I've done a couple of videos on this. I don't know. It's digital, so if you like Waldorf stuff, I think you'll like it. To me it's a bit underpowered. Does that make sense? I think it's a single voice synth, it's fine. But when you start mucking around with the multi-timbral side of it, it can really it can really struggle a fair bit. I'm gonna have to put that down here now. But yeah, we can muck around with that. Pads, yes. I know you like your pads. Do I have a peak? Yeah, there's a peak right there. You can actually see the corner of it. That's the peak. So I can do a peak if you want. Yeah, Inky's at Orbital. Yeah, she loves them. Yeah, I can do a peak. We could put a peak. I think we could put a peak like that right there, and we could connect a MIDI keyboard up to it and muck around with the peak. And you guys can ask me what you want to do with the peak. We could definitely do that. Like I said, there's a gear list on my website, ranzee.com, and if you want to go and have a look on there, and if there's anything on that gear list that you want me to check out, let me know. I mean, if I don't get anything, I'm just going to come up with stuff on my own, and I mean, this is what I came up with tonight. I like to do things different, you know what I'm like. So yeah. So you're torn between the peak and an old Axis Virus B, looking to pull the trigger. I would definitely go with a peak. Yep. Unless you can afford an Axis Virus, not the C, the one after it. What do they call that? The more expensive Axis anyway, because that's kind of, even that is like 2000 and when did Axis Virus stop making them? A long time ago now, isn't it? It's starting to get a bit old, this stuff. I always forget when Axis Virus started doing stuff. Vintage synth is always, yeah, TI, that's what I was thinking of. I think the TI-2 was the last one that they brought out. And 2009. Yeah, see, that's getting old. 2009, that's 10 years ago. So, yeah, a B is like 19, nearly 20 years old. I don't know why you'd like it to get a B. The B, I don't know. Unless you're specifically after some sort of sound that it makes. It's, yeah, I mean, comparing an Axis Virus B to a, you know, a Novation Peak is, yeah, it's like comparing an old bomb to, you know, a really nice car that's only just been released. You might have that romantic feeling when you're driving the old car, but it's still going to be an old car, no matter how you look at it. So, and yeah, I mean, it might be like driving in an old Aston Martin. I don't know. It might be, but I doubt it. So I'm not a big Access Virus fan, to be honest. So I'm not going to be singing praises to Access too much. The reason why I haven't been a big Access Virus fan is because I think they're completely overpriced for what they are. Yeah, you know, I know they were a small company and everything. They did some amazing stuff back in the day, but for this day and age, for what they're still selling them, I think that's way overpriced for what they are. So, but yeah, you can pick up a B cheap these days, I think. A Juno 6 would have a lot over a new synth. Yeah, maybe. Romantically sounds it would, but features and like for example, if you were to look at what even the DeepMind 6 or DeepMind 12 can do, you know, there's so much more it can do compared to a Juno, and it's analog, and it's got an analog filter, and you know, it would easily, if that came out at the same time as Juno 6, it would be a classic today, definitely. But today, what's out there in terms of, you know, analog synths competing with vintage analog synths, yeah, because they've got that digital, because you can make an analog synth with all the sounds and everything analog in the signal path, but you can have a complete digital controlled user interface with patch memory, everything, and it'll remember knob positions. You can even control CV stuff with digital chips, and it doesn't change the analog signal, so you're still getting purity with analog sound. And you couldn't do that in those days because they didn't have the processing power back then. So I think I would probably disagree with that. I've played a Rev 2, yes, and I love it. I wish I had one, but I can't afford every synth that ever was made. I mean, yeah, I've got a DeepMind 12. Do I need a Rev 2? I've got a Peak. Do I need a Rev 2? I'd love to have a Moog one. I'd love to have a I don't know. There was another analog synth that came out. I'm just forgetting all the names. It's like this year is the polysynth year. So, yeah. In terms of get divorced. In terms of knobby synths, you know, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't, like you were saying. You could look at you know, digital stuff. Have a look at the Roland System 8. I don't know what price the System 8 is compared to the Peak. I'm pretty sure they're going cheap. That is a really, really good synthesizer. You know, check out the System 8. The Peak is also really, really good. Yeah. One of the things I will say about Novation is they are absolutely brilliant when it comes to looking after their firmware and their hardware. So you can feel pretty safe. Like, I mean, if you want an example, look at Base Station 2. It was released so many years ago, and they're still releasing firmware updates for it. I don't know if they'll be doing any more, but seriously, that's awesome. With the Peak, and they brought the Summit out, which is the big brother of the Peak. Basically, it's like two Peaks in with a keyboard. You know, because they're both running similar engines, you'll probably see more development with the Peak, I reckon. And this has had like 2 or 3 major firmware updates already, this synth. When I say major, I mean they've added stuff into there that wasn't even thought about, because it's an FPGA based, this is a computer basically in there. So Yep, I've got a circuit. I don't ever use it. I'm probably going to put that on the for sale list. So there's a bunch of stuff in my gear list now that I've flagged that I'll probably get rid of. Circuits, there's so many of them out there in the world. It's not something that I need to hold on to for nostalgic reasons. There's plenty of circuits out there, so I'll be, be probably getting rid of that. I've got an MPC Live. There's no need for me to have a circuit. I've actually got an Octatrack as well, and I've got to, stick to something, and I can't just be, jumping from gear to gear to gear, which is what I tend to be doing at the moment. So I've got to stick to something. I didn't gel that well with the UI on the circuit, so I liked it, but I felt like it was limited. I felt restricted, and yeah, it's cool though for beginners and people that like basic sequences and stuff like that. It's quite innovative. Yeah, I wouldn't be using it as a sampler though. I know you can load samples on it, but I wouldn't be using it. It's not really a sampler, is it? I mean, to me, a sampler must record samples, so therefore it would be classified as a sample player. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me to call something a sampler, you've got to be able to record a sampler. Like an Amiga is a sampler because you can record samples on it. But you can't record a sample on a circuit. You can record a sample on an OP1, so that's a true sampler. You can record a sample on an Octatrack, on an MPC Live, on the Deluge. They're true samplers. So yeah, you got to be careful with that sort of stuff. I'm afraid that the peak might be just as good as a decent VST like Serum or Spire, or am I wrong? Well, if you're stuck behind a keyboard, and as in a computer keyboard, like typing keys, as in A, B, C, D, and a monitor and a mouse, and that's the way you produce, then there's nothing wrong with VSTs. A lot of people swear by VSTs. They get a decent MIDI controller like an Arturia or a Novation, decent MIDI controller, or a Roland, and connect it up to the computer, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you are performing live, not necessarily if you're performing live, but definitely if you're performing live, hardware synths tend to be more of a go-to because they're stable. You're not having to worry about a computer crashing in your live performance. But the other side of it is, if you like the tactile instrument feeling of hardware, if you like that. So, like, technically this isn't a good example. You were talking about the Blofeld before, because this is a sound module, just like a computer is. It's got a few knobs and stuff you can control on it, but you can do that with a computer and a mouse as well. So technically you could get, Waldorf could technically make a Blofeld VST. But yeah, you were saying before about knobby synths, that touch. For me, I tend to like synths that have got the analog gear in it. So whether it's hybrid like the Peak, where it's got analog filters and digital oscillators, or whether it's something that's completely analog, or even DeepMind, it's pretty much completely analog except for the digital effects that it's got in it. For me, the analog gear is kind of what I like. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's kind of like you go to a shop, you play something, you like the way it works, the way it sounds. You listen to YouTube videos, you listen to demos. For me, that's kind of what attracts me to a bit of hardware. And if that's what gets you over the line, it could be an Axis Virus B, then so be it. And that's knobby, So I reckon Axis should release a VST, but it would make everyone who owns an Axis Virus scream bloody mercy because they've spent so much money on it. But they could easily turn, like Omnisphere, they could easily turn their synths into a VST, and then vice versa. Omnisphere could easily turn their synth into a hardware synth. It's digital, so yeah. Do you remember how I was saying before about the Amiga, how you could easily turn that into a little Raspberry Pi device with an OLED display, and you could easily do that. So none of that stuff is kind of difficult and we have, as usual, we have to kind of decipher what is it that we gel with and what is it that we want to achieve. And if it's sitting behind a computer keyboard and mouse, then VST is the way to go, because you've still got that nice clean desktop. Otherwise, you're going to end up with crap like me. I just, I like my hardware. Yeah, IT's, yeah, exactly, Darren. IT's what you do, not what you get. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Definitely. It's kind of, when you're a musician and you're playing an instrument, this could be you're playing a VST instrument too. Don't think it's not hardware versus software argument here. But when you're a musician, you're playing an instrument, so you're in that sort of zone. You're not touching a keyboard and a mouse. That's probably what I'm saying. You're playing keys and you're twisting knobs and you're moving sliders and mod keys and things like mod wheels and things like that. That's kind of what you're doing. You're controlling, like as if you were playing a trumpet. You're pressing, it's a control thing, and then you're in that sort of groove. So it doesn't really matter what it is. Just basically, if you love the sound and if that really inspires you, then yeah. Some people type with 2 fingers, and other people type like with all 5 on each hand, so 10 fingers. So yeah, the QWERTY typing like this, where you find the F and the J with your 2 pointer fingers, and then you type like that. Yeah. Anyway, I reckon that's probably enough for the stream for today. Otherwise, we're just going to go down the rabbit hole of chit chat. But yeah, Darren, don't forget to hit me up for social media stuff. Let me know. Let me know what you want to do. There's like I said, there's an about page on the YouTube channel. You can find my email, or if you want to go through Facebook or Twitter, you can see it just below where the stream info is, and you can catch me that way. Or if you know Inky or whoever, you can catch it up through that. Other than that, I'm gonna wish you the best weekend. I know it's only just started for some of you, and for us, it's halfway through. It's just about 11:13 p.m. here in Western Australia. So, yeah, awesome. Thanks very much for joining us. I know it was a bit quiet this week, but next week it'll be even cooler. So it'll be awesome to catch you guys again. Thanks so much for all the regulars who come. I really appreciate you coming. And until next week, all the best. See you later.